Configuring the EGX-30A for engraving. We start by pressing and releasing the select key to set the mode to engrave. We then take our engraving stock and place it to the lower left corner of our engraving table on the AS10 sheet and remove any protective sheeting that might be on your material. To install the Nosecone and bearing assembly, we want to loosen the brass mounting screw. We want to take our bearing and Nosecone assembly and line up the little tab on the front side of the bearing assembly and push it down. We then want to rotate it counterclockwise until it stops and then tighten our mounting screw. We then want to take our engraving cutter and place it from the top, get our spanner wrench, place it on the bottom. We then take our engraving tool, insert it into the bearing assembly, and tighten it down to the spindle from the top. To set our XY origin position, we want to press the origin point button. This will move the carriage to its last known XY origin position. Once the machine stops, we can use the arrow keys to move our machine to the origin point. And using the origin point button, we want to hold it for 5 seconds until the light turns on and the machine beeps. To set the Z0, we want to use the arrow keys to move the Nosecone over the material. We want to use our hex driver to loosen the screw on the brass knob and lift the tool. We then want to press the Set Surface button to drop the Nosecone to the surface of the material. We then want to press the tool down until it touches the material and tighten the screw on the brass knob. We then press the Set Surface button to raise the Nosecone, and using our spanner wrench, we are going to adjust our depth. Each flat side of the Nosecone is equal to 5/1000ths of an inch. In this example, we've adjusted it to 10/1000ths. The XY feed speed should be set to 50% or less on the dial when engraving plastic or acrylic. The spindle speed can be set to the max setting. If you plan on using the vacuum hose, simply attach it to the left side of the bearing assembly. Setting up your file for engraving. Prior to setting up our job for plastic engraving, we want to ensure that the print driver and software have been installed. To install your software and drivers, please refer to the README file on the CD or your user's manual. Once we have the software and drivers installed, we'll go ahead and roll in Dr. Engrave software. When we launch Dr. Engrave, we can go ahead and maximize the screen. Click View and Fit to Screen to fit on the screen. This will make it easier to work with. Next thing we do is we go to File and Print Setup. Make sure we have the EGX-30A selected. Go to the Properties, and we want to specify our engraving area. This would be the plate itself. For this exercise, we'll set our engraving area for 8 inches by 2 inches. If we click on the tool setting, here we can set our feeds and speeds. So under the material, we can actually specify our material, plastic, ABS. We can also specify our speed by using the up and down arrow keys. So we'll go ahead and set our speed to 20 millimeters per second. Our Z speed we can also adjust as well, and we'll go with 4 millimeters per second. Under the Options tab, we want to go ahead and put a check mark in the Move to View position. What this will do is when the machine is done engraving, it will move the head to the upper right hand corner of your engraving material to allow you to remove it, and then click OK and click OK. We're going to create a very basic sign. we're going to go ahead and add in a graphic element. Now you can add in graphic elements into your file as well. You can actually import BMP files or DXF files into Dr. Engrave. If you're using CorelDRAW, you can also do copy and paste. So we'll go ahead and insert a graphic here. I'll want to resize this graphic, so I can either pull the corners to resize the graphic, or I can right click on the graphic, go to Properties, and I can actually specify the size of the graphic, click OK, and then I can go ahead and reposition it. Now for this particular graphic, I'm going to put an engraving fill on this. So to do that, I can right click on the graphic, click Fill, put a check mark in the fill box, and for the pitch I want to input half the size of the engraving tool. So if I'm using a 10,000ths of an inch cutter, a .010 cutter, I'd want to set my pitch to .005. I'll also want to put a contour on this. This in essence will give me a cleanup pass at the end to give me nice clean edges. We'll go ahead and click OK, and that's going to place the fill on a graphic. I'll zoom in here to show you what the fill looks like. So we'll go back to View and Fit to Screen. At this point I want to go ahead and add in some text. So we'll just go ahead and add in some very simple text here using our text tool. Dr. Engrave actually allows you to use all of your Windows TrueType fonts. Also, in addition to your TrueType fonts, Dr. Engrave does have a single line font editor that allows you to take any Windows TrueType font and convert it to a single stroke font. Once we have the text laid out, we'll leave it as an outline and we're ready to engrave. To engrave the file, we'll go to File, go to Print. Want to double check that the printer selected is the Roland EGX-30A. We can go to the Properties if we want to double check our settings, and once we're ready to output, we can click on OK. This concludes our support tutorial. For more information and videos, please visit www.rolanddga.com.